You ever have a moment where you just know, absolutely know, that life is about to go sideways, and there's not a damn thing you can do to stop it? That's exactly where I was, 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, still rubbing sleep out of my eyes, getting a call that would flip my whole world upside down. If you'd told me an HOA president would be the one to do it, I'd have laughed you out the room. But that's how it started. Clang. Bolt cutters on my security chain. The kind of sound that sticks in your head, even if you're half a world away. Let me set the stage for you. I'm Marcus Tank Rodriguez, Army Reserve MP. Was just settling into my role on a federal drug task force. I'd inherited my grandma's place, a little house in a neighborhood called Willowbrook Estates, just 3 months back. At first, I thought it was a gift, a break, a real shot at some stability after years of moving around, working my ass off, barely keeping it together since I lost my parents as a kid. The house smelled like her, homemade tortillas, and those weird cinnamon candles she always burned. I figured I'd rent it out while I was deployed, maybe build some equity, maybe have a place to come back to after seeing things overseas I still don't really like to talk about. But Willowbrook, man. If you want to picture it, think of perfect rows of beige houses, lawns so precise you'd swear there was a prize for the best dressed grass, and an air that just kind of hums with quiet judgment. Sprinklers hiss at 6 o'clock sharp. People wave, but not with their whole hand. Just the fingertips, like they're not sure they want you here. That's suburbia, I guess. Or maybe just the kind with a $150 a month HOA. That money? Yeah, it buys you community standards. Translation. It pays some power-tripping Karen to run the place like her personal fiefdom. That's where Bethany Kensington Wright comes in. Imagine a woman who's never met a boundary she didn't want to enforce. White Lexus SUV, clipboard, ruler in her purse for measuring grass. I swear to God. Her husband, Carl, sits on city council. 7 years as HOA president, and she acts like she owns every blade of grass in Willowbrook. Sends out violation notices for Christmas lights if you leave them up past New Year's. Kind of person who smiles at you with her teeth, but not her eyes. So there I am, halfway through deployment, dodging sand and gunfire, just trying to keep my head down and my team alive. And I get an email. Violation notice. Unauthorized commercial vehicle storage. That government-issued Jeep Wrangler I parked in my own driveway, marked clear as day with federal decals. She called it an eyesore. I couldn't believe it. It was the same Jeep loaded with surveillance tech, GPS trackers, encrypted radios, and cameras for cartel investigations. Property of the United States government. Bethany? She thought it was just another truck to tow away. What she didn't know is that, with one stroke of her pen, she was stepping on a landmine. That Jeep wasn't just my ride. It was $347,000 worth of federal hardware. Not something you want to mess with, not unless you enjoy meeting people with 3-letter agency badges. And the fines she started stacking, $1.50 a day. I'm overseas fighting cartels, and meanwhile, my mailbox back home fills with her petty threats. I wasn't even the first. My sister Maya, sweetest person you'll ever meet, teaches middle school English. She tried reasoning with Bethany, brought a copy of my deployment orders, offered to tarp the Jeep, even tried the kill 'em with kindness thing. Bethany just stared her down, said, rules are rules. If your brother can't follow simple community standards, maybe this neighborhood isn't right for your family. You ever want to punch someone through the phone? That was me, right then. It got worse. Maya called me, voice all shaky, sitting at Grandma's old kitchen table. Tank, she threatened to put a lien on the house. She said Carl knows people at the school district that supporting us could mess with my job. I felt sick, helpless, sand in my mouth, heart pounding in my ears. Out there, in the desert, I could handle threats. At home, not so much. And it wasn't just us. Once Maya started digging, she found the pattern. The Johnsons, Marine vet, got cited for a loud motorcycle. Sarah Martinez, Navy wife, got fined for garden gnomes. Every military family in Willowbrook had a file. But here's where it goes from irritating to infuriating. None of it was legal. Buried in Grandma's old paperwork, Maya found the HOA bylaws from 1987. Government vehicles were specifically exempt. Military, law enforcement, emergency services. Protected. Bethany had just been making it up, counting on everyone being too scared or too tired to check. You ever wonder how people like her get so much power? Fear. Quiet. People whisper behind fences, but don't speak up at meetings. Carl's political connections made most folks think fighting back was useless. But I started to realize this wasn't just about some parking spat. This was organized harassment, with a layer of corruption so thick it stank worse than the mulch in every front yard. All I could think was Grandma Rose's old saying, "Mijo, stand up to bullies, but do it the right way." I was going to do it, even if I had to fight from halfway across the world. The next move? Bethany sent Maya a registered letter. Not an email, not a sticky note. Full-on legalese, carbon copied to Carl's city council office and the local police. Immediate removal or towing of unauthorized vehicle within 24 hours, citing health and safety violations. It was fiction, wrapped up in official letterhead, the kind of thing meant to make you sweat. Maya called again, and I could hear her pacing, floorboards creaking, voice tight. "Tank, there's a tow truck circling. The driver keeps looking at your Jeep like he's casing it." I could smell Grandma's vanilla candles, but underneath, fear. That's what Bethany was really selling. Not order, not community. Fear. So I fought back the only way I could, called JAG. Judge Advocate General. Military lawyers who eat HOA violations for breakfast. Staff Sergeant Patricia Williams picked up my case. One look at the documents, and she was fuming. Rodriguez. She threatened to steal federal property. That's a felony. Most folks don't realize Service Members Civil Relief Act doesn't just cover your rent. It protects your property, especially if it's government issued. My Jeep was federal equipment. Williams filed a formal complaint, and suddenly Bethany's power trip was on the radar of people who don't mess around. And then, the real twist, Maya started digging deeper. Buried in meeting minutes from 2019, she found a letter, Bethany, writing to the City Planning Commission, arguing against military housing. Said transient military populations don't maintain long-term investment standards. That's code for "we don't want your kind here." She'd been targeting military families for years. When Maya found that, it was like a switch flipped. She started reaching out, documenting every violation, every threat, unintentionally building a federal case. But Bethany wasn't about to give up. Her next move? She showed up in person, heels on concrete, camera in hand, inspecting my grandma's property, photographing the Jeep from every angle. Told Maya, military service doesn't excuse noncompliance. Maybe your family should reconsider if this is the right neighborhood. I wasn't even surprised at that point. Just angry and tired. Mostly tired. But I had one more trick. The Jeep was a task force vehicle, loaded with security systems. GPS, motion sensors, cameras. I logged in remotely. Bethany had trespassed 17 times in 3 days, photographing government equipment, even trying the door. That's not just overstepping. That's potential espionage. When my supervisor, Captain Sarah Chun, heard about it, she just asked, "Rodriguez, how fast do you want me to make this woman's life complicated?" The answer? Fast. Bethany doubled down, hiring private security, 2 guys in a white SUV, patrolling the neighborhood, taking photos of my Jeep every hour. They told neighbors I was dangerous. Said military vehicles bring security risks. Maya called, crying, "Tank, they're saying you're a threat. Mrs. Patterson won't even look at me." I felt something cold settle in my chest. Rage, I guess, or maybe just helplessness. I contacted Chun, explained the situation. She said, "If we come in too heavy, it'll look like we're proving their point. Let them hang themselves." So I waited, kept collecting evidence. One night, I checked the Jeep's cameras. Caught Bethany, flashlight in hand, peering through the windows at 1:43 a.m., trying the doors, taking pictures of the dashboard. She wasn't alone. Security guards with her, pointing at equipment. That's when I realized this wasn't about property values anymore. They were trying to paint me as some unstable, dangerous vet. Classic. And it worked. Maya's school started getting calls. Parents questioning if a military family should be teaching their kids. Principal called her in for a community concern meeting. Maya told me, "Bethany says military families bring instability. She's using my job against me." The helplessness was overwhelming. I'd trained for war, but this? Watching your sister get torn down by cowards, and all you can do is listen to it on a staticky line from a bunker. It escalated. Security guards cornered Maya in the grocery store parking lot. "Ma'am, we need to discuss your brother's military activities." She held her ground, started recording. "Are you saying my brother is a threat to American families?" The guard stepped closer, said, "Military personnel sometimes bring home problems. PTSD, weapons. We're just ensuring safety," painting me as a dangerous, unstable vet. Maya's recording caught him admitting they were investigating federal surveillance equipment. That was my opening. Chun reported it to their licensing bureau. The guards disappeared overnight, facing federal investigation for espionage. Bethany panicked, started filing complaints, police, fire, code enforcement, even animal control. Every false report created a new paper trail, a new federal charge. But I was still stuck overseas, getting messages from Maya, voice shaky, but not broken. "Tank, we're hanging on. But I don't know how much longer I can take it." Then, 6:47 a.m. Tuesday. Maya's call. "Tank, she's cutting your locks. She's got bolt cutters. She's stealing your Jeep right now." Through her phone, I watched Bethany, hair wild, still in her bathrobe, directing a tow truck to haul off a federal vehicle. The driver saw the government decals and refused. "Lady, I ain't touching this." Bethany screamed. "It's abandoned property." But nobody was buying it. When the tow truck peeled out, Bethany changed the locks on the community gate, trapping my Jeep, blocking law enforcement. "If he wants it back, he can follow proper HOA procedures," she shrieked. My blood pressure spiked, so high I thought I'd pass out, even thousands of miles away. But my Jeep's GPS and security systems were recording everything. The moment she cut my lock, it triggered a federal alert, pinging Homeland Security databases in 3 states. I called Chun. Within minutes, federal marshals were on the way to Willowbrook. Maya kept recording, catching Bethany's meltdown, every shriek, every threat. You know that feeling when everything comes crashing down? When you realize you're not alone, that people are finally standing up. That's what happened next. Mrs. Patterson, old lady across the street, lost 2 sons in Vietnam, saw the whole thing. Called every neighbor, every veteran in Willowbrook. By 10 a.m., Grandma's house was surrounded. Tom Henderson, 72-year-old Vietnam vet, planted himself in front of my Jeep. You want that vehicle, you go through 30 American veterans first. The kind of stand you never forget. Bethany called the cops, fire department, animal control, anyone who'd listen. Claimed veterans were forming armed militias. Every lie, another charge. The final straw was when marshals showed up and Bethany refused to open the gate. "I don't recognize federal authority over private HOA property," she screamed, still in her bathrobe. Game over. Coming back stateside after all that, I gotta tell you, felt weird as hell. 3 days after the gate showdown, I landed at Houston, sand still stuck in the cuffs of my uniform, head ringing from too many nights with too little sleep. Maya picked me up, eyes bloodshot but determined, her voice steadier than I'd ever heard. We didn't talk much on the drive. "What do you say? Welcome home? Sorry your Jeep's a national headline?" The minute we walked into Grandma's house, it hit me. The smell was all wrong. Not cinnamon candles, Not tortillas, but something sharp. Paper, stress, and that desperate, sour scent that soaks into the walls when people are scared for too long. Maya had turned the dining room into a war room. Stacks of documents, post-its, printouts of emails, a whole spiderweb of strings and highlighter marks across the walls. She looked at me, hands shaking, and said, "Tank, before the feds get here, you need to see this." On the table, 5 years of HOA records, minutes, financial statements, and, right there in the middle, a contract. Kensington Urban Holdings and Eastbrook Development Corporation. Signed 6 months before I inherited the place. Subject line: Willowbrook Estates Acquisition Strategy, Phase 2 Implementation. Maya pointed to the list of properties, every military family, every elderly resident, Grandma's house circled in red pen. She whispered, "They weren't just harassing us, Tank. They were clearing out anyone who couldn't fight back. For profit." The more we dug, the uglier it got. Carl's company had already pre-sold almost 50 houses to a national developer. Houses they didn't even own yet. The plan was to force people out, buy at a discount, and flip the whole neighborhood for luxury condos. The so-called violations? Fabricated. Maya held up the original 1987 bylaws. Military vehicles not just allowed, but specifically protected. All those fines and threats? Worthless. Just paper intimidation. But here's the part that really gutted me. Maya found violation notices dated during Grandma's last weeks in hospice. Threats about property maintenance, legal action against a dying woman who couldn't get out of bed. She kept asking the nurse if we'd lose the house. Every letter made her blood pressure spike. I used to think she was delirious from the meds when she mumbled, "Don't let them take our home." Turns out, she saw it coming before I did. I saw Maya differently, too. She wasn't the scared little sister anymore, bullied by suburban dictators. She was a force, part teacher, part detective, all heart. She looked me in the eye and said, "This isn't about your Jeep anymore. This is about every family they've hurt for years." Within 48 hours, our living room was packed. Captain Chen arrived, bringing 2 federal prosecutors and an accountant who specialized in following dirty money. Assistant U.S. Attorney Rebecca Martinez took one look at Maya's files and said, "I've prosecuted cartel money laundering cases with less evidence than this." They started talking RICO, the Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. I'd studied in training, but never thought I'd see it used on an HOA. But that's where we were. Turns out, when a local board starts embezzling community funds, fabricating violations, targeting protected groups, and moving money across state lines, that's organized crime. And Carl and Bethany? They were in it up to their necks. Over $180,000 in consulting contracts had vanished from the books, straight to Carl's development company, all without a single vote from residents. Maya became the heart of our coalition. Veterans, neighbors, old ladies who'd had enough. She rallied everyone. Tom Henderson brought his buddies, Vietnam vets who'd survived worse. Mrs. Patterson supplied surveillance photos, like some kind of suburban Nancy Drew. Maya's teacher friends taught us how to communicate, how to organize, how to keep things from getting lost in the noise. The smell of burnt coffee and sweat replaced Grandma's cinnamon candles. The air buzzed with something I hadn't felt since basic training. Hope mixed with a side of righteous anger. We came up with a recall strategy. Maya knew the bylaws better than anyone by now. Turns out, you only need 25 to 33% of homeowners to sign a petition for a recall election. So we went door to door. And you know what we found? Almost everyone had a story. The Washingtons had been threatened with fines for excessive noise, their baby a colic. The Johnsons got letters about unapproved window treatments, their curtains. The elderly Kowalskis had been fined for medical equipment noise. People were sick of it. Within 3 days, Maya had 67% of the neighborhood signed on. The media strategy came from Maya's network too. She got military family harassment stories out to veteran groups, which snowballed fast. Local news picked it up. Then, 3 congressional reps called for federal briefings. Meanwhile, Maya kept finding dirt. Fake insurance claims for property damage supposedly caused by my Jeep, damage that never happened. Civil rights lawyers got involved after seeing the patterns of discrimination. And then it all hit a boiling point. Maya got elected interim HOA president by acclamation at a packed emergency meeting. First thing she did? Froze the accounts, pending federal investigation. That's when I realized the war had gone national. Our little drama was turning into a blueprint for fighting back, not just in Willowbrook, but everywhere. Bethany and Carl? They went from smug to desperate. One night, Maya's backyard cameras caught Bethany at 3 a.m. burning boxes of HOA records behind Grandma's tool shed. The air reeked of lighter fluid and panic. Next morning, Maya found her car vandalized, all 4 tires slashed, military scum spray-painted across the windshield. That sound, broken glass crunching under her shoes, made my fists clench. I called Captain Chun. Within hours, Maya had a federal protective detail, agents who looked like regular joggers or neighbors, but who never took their eyes off our house. Tom Henderson organized a rotating patrol of veterans. Mrs. Patterson baked cookies and coordinated the shifts. That's community right there. Then the threat started. Death threats, voicemails, notes on windshields. The FBI's terrorism task force traced every one. Maya never flinched. If anything, it made her louder. And Bethany? She just kept digging her own grave. Tried to bribe Maya with $50,000, caught on video, with federal agents watching from a distance. She even tried bribing federal agents themselves through some sleazy private investigator. It was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. Every new scheme just added more years to her sentence. Carl tried using his city council seat to block the investigation. Recorded himself on public meetings saying, "These military people bring instability. Their vehicles, their problems, their schedules. Bad for property values." That audio made the prosecutors light up like Christmas. By then, Bethany's panic was on full display. She hired a PR firm to smear us, Morrison and Associates, the kind of company that fixes problems for politicians. Suddenly, anonymous complaints flooded Maya's school. She's radicalizing students, spreading anti-government propaganda, making the school unsafe. Maya got called in for a disciplinary meeting. I don't know how she kept it together, but she did. But the PR firm made a critical mistake. They published a community safety report that basically claimed military families brought crime, violence, and substance abuse. Totally fabricated stats, designed to get us kicked out citywide. That was it. The DOJ opened hate crime and RICO investigations not just on Bethany, but the whole network she was connected to, HOA boards across 3 states that had been trading playbooks on how to get rid of military families. The community turned out in force. Veterans, teachers, parents, neighbors who'd been silent for too long. When the recall vote happened, the turnout was bigger than any local election in Willowbrook history. Bethany and Carl? They didn't even show. Hiding, I guess, or maybe already planning their escape. But there was no escaping what was coming. Not anymore. You ever see one of those moments where all the dominoes start falling at once? That's what it felt like, standing in Grandma's living room, watching neighbors file in with casseroles and printouts and shaky hands. Veterans, teachers, old ladies with legal pads. Everybody had a story, a grudge, or a fresh stack of evidence. The recall meeting was standing room only. Tom Henderson brought his whole Vietnam vet network, guys in ball caps with faded patches, arms folded, making it very clear they weren't going to let Bethany's crowd bully anyone today. Mrs. Patterson came in with a binder of photos. The Washingtons had spreadsheets and recordings. By the time Maya took the makeshift podium, you could feel the energy shift. For the first time in years, people weren't scared of Bethany. They were tired of her. Maya, bless her, looked nervous at first. But when she started laying out the evidence, fake violations, fraudulent fines, emails from Bethany's personal account, something just clicked. Her voice got stronger. The teachers in the room nodded along. You could see people realizing, wait, we don't have to take this. The vote wasn't even close. New board, new president, Maya. First thing she did was freeze the accounts. Next, she called a press conference on the lawn. Press, by then, meant 3 local channels and a couple guys from national outlets who smelled a scandal. She stood there with a printout of the original HOA bylaws and read them, plain and simple. Military vehicles are protected. All actions taken by the previous board regarding these vehicles are null and void. I don't think I've ever been prouder of anyone in my life. But things weren't over. Not even close. Bethany and Carl, facing federal charges and media scrutiny, started acting like cornered rats. Bethany, caught on camera burning documents in the middle of the night, claimed it was spring cleaning. Carl tried to shift blame to everyone else, even as prosecutors announced embezzlement charges, fraud, civil rights violations, RICO, pretty much the federal greatest hits. And then the real floodgates opened. The FBI, DOJ, even a couple of guys from Homeland Security showed up with subpoenas and search warrants. I watched them cart out boxes from Carl's real estate office. His face on TV, gone from smug to pale and sweaty. I'll be honest, part of me felt a little sorry for him just for a second. Then I remembered what he did to Grandma, and I let it go. You'd think it would start to calm down, but Bethany's next move was her most desperate and dangerous. She filed false police reports, tried to paint Maya as mentally unstable, claimed our veteran neighbors were forming militias. The school got more anonymous complaints, more threats. It was ugly, and it wore us down. Some nights I'd hear Maya crying in her room, trying to be quiet. There were moments I thought about just leaving, selling the house, starting over somewhere nobody knew us. But every time somebody showed up, Tom with coffee, Mrs. Patterson with a story about her sons, a random parent from Maya's school with a homemade pie. They'd tell us not to give up, that what we were doing mattered. And slowly, it started to feel true. Then the story went national. Maya's documentation got picked up by veteran networks. Military Times did a front-page piece on suburban warfare against military families. Fox and CNN both called. Congressional reps started asking questions. It wasn't just about us anymore. Families from all over started writing in, sharing their own HOA horror stories, fake violations, coordinated harassment, all targeting military or vulnerable residents. The DOJ opened a nationwide investigation into HOA corruption. Federal civil rights attorneys reached out to Maya, asking her to help train other families on documentation, evidence gathering, and recall strategies. Our kitchen became a command center again, but this time for people all across the country. Meanwhile, the legal noose tightened. Federal prosecutors built their case like a machine. They had bank records, emails, forged documents, audio of Bethany's bribe attempts, security footage of her trespassing and vandalizing. RICO, mail fraud, obstruction of justice, conspiracy, hate crime enhancements. The list went on and on. You know what they say about karma? Sometimes it takes a while, but when it shows up, it doesn't mess around. I'll never forget the day of the sentencing hearing. Packed courtroom, TV cameras lining the walls, reporters scribbling. Bethany looked small, suddenly older, dressed in a cheap suit instead of her usual suburban queen attire. Carl slumped next to her, eyes on the floor. The judge read out the charges: theft of federal property, conspiracy, embezzlement, obstruction, civil rights violations. 8 years, no parole, $647,000 in restitution. Your systematic harassment of military families represents domestic terrorism disguised as community governance, the judge said, voice ringing out over the room. This court will not tolerate suburban tyranny. Carl got 6 years, lost every public office, and his development empire collapsed under the weight of lawsuits and settlements. Bethany's house got seized under asset forfeiture laws. The property where she once ruled became Willowbrook's new Veteran Memorial Park by unanimous community vote. After all the smoke cleared, the neighborhood changed. People started looking out for each other. Maya was elected permanent HOA president, her first order of business, passing the Willowbrook Military Family Bill of Rights. It became a model for other communities. National legislation followed, the Tank Rodriguez Act, establishing federal oversight for HOA governance, with real penalties for systematic harassment or discrimination. Some mornings I'd stand in the kitchen, coffee in hand, and just breathe it in. Hope, finally. The air felt different. For the first time since I inherited Grandma's house, it felt like home again. But the cost? It was real. Maya left teaching, not because she lost, but because she found something bigger. She started a foundation to help other military families fight back, built with settlement money and donations from all over. Her work helped change lives in ways I'll never even know about. Me? I stuck around. Bought the house next door with Elena Martinez, the prosecutor who'd helped bring it all down. We got married under the old oak in Grandma's backyard. Just a simple barbecue, neighbors and family, and a lot of relieved smiles. That's what victory looked like for us, not some fairy tale ending. Not everything tied up with a bow. Just peace hard-won, with scars that never really fade. The years after, they're not what you see in the movies. Winning in court isn't a clean break. It's 100 little aches and bruises that fade slow. Maya never quite shook the feeling of looking over her shoulder, checking the mailbox for bad news, sleeping with her phone under her pillow. Sometimes she'd get these calls from other military wives or single moms, folks halfway across the country who'd read about Willowbrook and just needed someone to tell them they weren't crazy, that they could fight back and maybe win. Our house became a crossroads, not just for our family, but for anyone willing to show up with a plate of food and a story. Sunday afternoons, Maya would pull out boxes of old evidence, bylaws, letters, pictures, turning our kitchen into a war room for someone else's battle. She showed people how to document everything, how to ask the right questions, how to spot a phony violation from a mile away. Turns out, teachers make damn good legal advocates. Sometimes it wore her down, sometimes it built her up. But she never stopped. There was this fire in her now. The more stories she heard, the angrier she got. But it wasn't the helpless kind. She'd learned, and now she made sure others learned too. The neighborhood kept changing. Folks who used to hide behind their blinds started coming out for block parties, potlucks, volunteer shifts at the new park. Mrs. Patterson, 91 years old and sharp as ever, ran every meeting like a drill sergeant. Tom Henderson became the unofficial mayor. His word carried weight. Property values shot up not because of any fancy marketing, but because people actually wanted to live here now. Military families started moving in on purpose, not by accident. We lost some people, too. A few old-timers packed up and left. Said Willowbrook wasn't the same without all the drama. Carl's old friends, mostly. Nobody much missed them. And honestly, it was quieter for it. Some days I'd walk by the Veteran Memorial Park, look at where Bethany's house used to stand. Now a green field full of laughter and barbecue smoke. Kids play on the swings, no one measuring the grass with a damn ruler. That patch of earth used to be all fear and control. Now, freedom, if you want to call it that. A lot of folks do. Maya went bigger. She started the Rodriguez Foundation for Military Family Rights. Helped families all over the country. Her phone never stopped buzzing. Calls from lawyers, reporters, soldiers, moms, even a couple of senators. She left teaching, poured everything she had into advocacy. Got invited to speak at conferences, sit on panels, even helped write part of a new federal bill. Her old students sent her cards, said she taught them how to stand up for themselves, how to document everything, how to speak out when something was wrong. Elena and I, we built our life next door. Quiet most days. She transferred to the local prosecutor's office, wanted to stay close to the action, though she'd say it was just for the short commute and the barbecue. We'd get together with Maya, her new husband David, yeah, Captain Chen's brother, who moved to Willowbrook because he knew Maya was the real deal. Our families blended, kids running wild across 2 backyards, never quite sure which kitchen belonged to whom. We started a scholarship fund from the settlements. 23 military kids have gone to college because of it, last I counted. I go to those graduations when I can. It never gets old. The national database that started with Maya's files? It's protected hundreds of families from what we went through. Some of them send letters. Some, just a picture of their new place, flag out front, smiling kids, dog on the porch. That's enough. But it's not like I walk around feeling like a hero. I still get flashbacks sometimes, hearing that bolt cutter clang, Maya's voice shaking on the phone, wondering if I'd ever set foot in Grandma's house again. Some nights, I sit at the old kitchen table, fingers tracing the wood grain where she used to knead dough. If I close my eyes, I can almost hear her. Stand up to bullies, but do it the right way. Yeah, we did it the right way, but it cost us. Maya's hair went gray a little early. I lost some faith in people, gained it back in the ones who stuck around. Our neighbors, they don't take community for granted anymore. Not after what we went through. On the first Freedom Day, after the dust settled, we held a celebration in the park. The air smelled like brisket and summer grass. Veterans from all over came, families gathered. Kids made a flag out of construction paper and taped it to the swings. Maya and I sat on the bench where Grandma used to watch us play, just letting the noise and laughter wash over us. I looked at her, saw the lines on her face, the steel in her eyes. She squeezed my hand, and for once, she was the one comforting me. "You did good, Tank," she said. "We did good." Most mornings, I walk out on the porch and see Old Glory flying over the houses of families who know they're safe. No more threats, no more bogus fines, no more looking over our shoulders. Just life, just peace. It isn't perfect, but it's ours. And every time I hear the sound of kids laughing where fear used to live, I think this is what we fought for. So, if you ever find yourself up against a bully, suburban or otherwise, don't buy into the lie that you're alone. Document everything. Find your people. Stand up even when your voice shakes. Because bullies can be beaten if enough good folks stand together and don't back down. That's what victory tastes like. Not sweet, not easy, but real. And nobody can take that away from you.